for you to really hear yourself over these speakers. It's more for the recording.
Okay,
And do like this.
okay,
Just like this is fine. You
Okay.
can raise it up and down if you need to.
okay,
Okay?
all right. It's kind of flickering between green and red.
This is a regular meeting of all of the Independent School District being held December 12th, 2022, beginning at 5 p.m. in the middle school library, 678 Success Drive. A live stream and recording of the meeting will be available for viewing on the district YouTube channel. So subject to be discussed or considered upon, which any form of action may be taken or listed below. Items do not have to be taken in the same order as shown on this meeting notice. Unless removed from the consent agenda, items identified within the consent agenda will be acted on at one time. Roll call. Board Manager Terry. Present. Board Manager Elder. Eller, and Board Manager Johnson. All three board members are present. We do have a quorum. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Any public comments?
There were none posted.
Thank you. Recognition, Lone Star Government Student of the Month, Lone Star Government Teacher of the Month, and Employee of the Month.
All right. Good evening, Board President Johnson, member of the boards. For our Lone Star Governance Student of the Month, we celebrate sixth grader Esteban Nunez. Esteban is the son of Maria and Goya Nunez. He has two siblings. His favorite subject is math. He is I see who his teacher is tonight. He is a member of the Marlin Sound of Thunder marching band. Esteban loves playing outside with his cousins, video games, and practicing his drum. He is really good at baseball, but his favorite sport is football. He is an avid fan of the San Francisco 49ers. After high school, Esteban plans to attend Langston University to be a member of the drumline. He also plans to major in mathematics and become a math college professor. Esteban's history teacher, Mr. Elliott, said Esteban comes to school every day ready to learn. He asks questions when he is unclear on something and helps his fellow scholars to understand if they are unsure. He is extremely hardworking and is always willing to lend a helping hand. Let's give another round of applause for Esteban Nunez, our Lone Star Governance Student of the Month. Come up here and look at your certificate and hold it. And we're going to get a picture of you. You going to shake it?
Congratulations. He's not this side. We're not really going to go for it today.
I think. For our Lone Star Governance Teacher of the Month, we have Mr. Max Martinez. Mr. Martinez is a graduate of Marlin High School. Oh, and right now he's working at practice. He has been in education for 15 years, and 10 of those years have been with Marlin ISD. Mr. Martinez teaches Intro to Construction at Marlin Middle School. He also teaches Principles of Construction, Construction Management 1 and 2 at Marlin High School. He has been married to his wife, Julie, for 6 years. They have 3 sons, Jackson, Judson, and Maddox. Outside of work, Mr. Martinez loves to fish, golf, camp, and travel to sporting events. His greatest achievement from being an educator is building relationships and receiving phone calls from former students for advice. He also loves being invited to their college graduation. It brings him joy to have former students also become teachers. So a round of applause for our Lone Star Governance Teacher of the Month, Mr. Max Martinez. And you can come accept on his behalf, Ms. Washington. For our Marlin ISD Employee of the Month, this employee presently is the proud Dean of Students at Marlin Elementary School and has been committed to excellence in education for 13 years in the Marlin Independent School District. Please give a round of applause for Ms. Rhonda Milton. Ms. Milton has served on all three campuses, starting at Marlin Middle School as the 8th grade U.S. history teacher, and then 9 years at the high school and almost 2 years at the elementary campus. Her many hats at Marlin ISD have included the early childhood literacy specialist, testing coordinator, writing instructional coach, volleyball coach, I didn't know that, world geography, U.S. and world history classes, and also government and economics. Without a doubt, Mrs. Milton is driven by her desire to eradicate the achievement gap at all levels and believes strongly in the role of effective leadership in Marlin, as well as student success in the classroom. After 15 years in the business sector, Mrs. Milton returned to Marlin, Texas in 2010 to work alongside her mother, who was also a teacher at Marlin High School. She holds a bachelor's in French and applied linguistics with an MBA in international business. She credits her instructional excellence to the life experiences she has been exposed to while living and learning in West Africa, Europe, and in the United States. It is these experiences and expertise that she brings to the classroom and to instructional leadership at Marlin ISD. Let's round applause again for Ms. Rhonda Milton. All them accolades, I don't know why you're not the president somewhere. Come on over here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Wow, let's move this out the way. Thank you. Thank you. Here's your pretty box. Thank you. You're so welcome.
Thank you for all those award winners, and I hope you keep up your good work. Now we're going into closed session at 5:08. Pursuant to Texas Government Code, Section 551.074, deliberation of personnel matters. We're in closed session. We're back in open session at 5:41. Next thing on the agenda is the superintendent report.
Good evening, Board President Johnson, members of the board. Tonight, we're going to begin with E-rate workshop by Mr. Adam Lejeune.
President Johnson, members of the board, Dr. Henson. As we all know, these days, the internet is the lifeblood of any organization, and we're extremely thankful to Discount. This is the E-rate fund that is headed up by the FCC, funded by the FCC, managed by the Universal Service Administrative Company, who also handles the Emergency Connectivity Fund that we took part in recently, and also E-rate for the past 15 or so years. There are two categories for E-rate. One is Category 1, and that covers internet access and things like building-to-building connections, which we have in our fiber infrastructure. The discount on that is 90%, and we are allowed to spend as much as we want as long as we cover that 10% that's remaining. And Category 2 covers what they call internal connections, things like your wireless access points, networking switches, cables, battery backups, which we desperately need, things like that. And our discount on that is 85%. In our case, free lunch program students were community exempt, so we get the maximum discount on that. So what that means for us is that for our remaining budget of $125,000, if we pay $18,750, then we can take advantage of that full $125,000 worth of products or services. So it's very advantageous for to take part in this program. With Category 1, we are on the 4th year of our services that we selected a while ago. Internet and our interconnections between our buildings are already decided. After this coming year, we will go for bid in order to take new bids for 24-25. This year, I am asking for most of the remainder of our Category 2 budget. We have $125,000 left, like I said, of which we'll pay only 15%. Why do we need to do this now? Well, we're getting close to the end of our current 5-year budget. So 24-25 is the last year of that budget. So I'm going to use the bulk of it next year, fill in if there are any additional things the following year. And then the next year will be the start of a new 5-year budget, hopefully. Our new programs that we're using require more bandwidth than we can currently push out in every classroom. We had a onboarding of educational programs that are very immersive and use up a lot of our internet that we have. So we need a stronger connection from the student to the service than what we can provide reliably. And also all the new devices that we're buying, new laptops, new iPads, they're all using what's called Wi-Fi 6, which is itself a faster, more reliable protocol and saves some of those spikes that we see in high traffic areas. So we're not going to get rid of our current Wi-Fi that we have around the building. We're going to use those to fill in at the high school, since right now we're just focusing on middle school and elementary, but we'll still be able to increase coverage in the high school. And I would like to put some outside so that people who are maybe waiting in the parking lot or here before or after school can still continue to access the Wi-Fi with their school devices. So the timeline for this is that we are releasing the RFP on December the 15th. That's Thursday. It has to be open statutorily for 28 days. After the 28 days, we're going to review all of the proposals that we get in. And then in February for the workshop board meeting, I'm going to present a recommendation for approval for our selected vendor or vendors for those Category 2 devices. Following that, in the summertime is whenever all of those contracts are executed, and then hopefully we'll have our build out in the summer. There have been some shipping delays and things that push back some service timelines, so it's important for us to get on board early. Are there any questions about the E-rate program or process? Thank you.
Next, we will have the ESL waiver plan by Dr. Sharon Deloach.
Board of Directors, President Johnson, Board of Directors, Ms. Terry, Ms. Ellers. Thank you for allowing me to be able to come up and speak to you about our ESL plan today. First of all, I want to talk to you about the Texas Administrative Code. All ESL districts that are under TEA waiver must comply with the waiver application. As a local education agency, all agencies who do not have the appropriate certified teachers for the required bilingual education or ESL programs must apply to TEA for a waiver application. And we have done just this. And in order to consider this waiver plan, we also on a daily basis. We just received two new students today, which moved our student numbers to 168. But we must code these students according to our program models consist of the content-based model, which is our elementary pre-K through 12, pre-K through second grade, and then our upper elementary secondary models, pull-out program for grades 3 through 12. Now, our 22-23 ESL certified teacher rosters consist of the following. Our Marlin Elementary certified teachers, we have 5. For Marlin Middle School, we currently have 3. For Marlin High School, we have 1. For the Marlin Middle School, we moved to those teachers who do not actually touch students out of the Marlin Middle School over to the other district faculty, such as Dr. Henson. He's ESL certified, he teaches math, so he's included in the Marlin Middle School number. Now, for our 2022-23 waiver that's required, our numbers that we reported to TEA, our waiver requested 4 teachers for the elementary school, 3 for the middle school, and 2 for the high school to be up under an ESL waiver. We submitted our waiver and our action plan to demonstrate the support for our teachers seeking certification, to reflect the efforts to recruit certified teachers to the district, to strengthen our program implementation, whereby helping our teachers better serve the needs of our district's emergent bilingual students. We also included a comprehensive professional development plan which targets the competencies needed to serve our emergent bilingual students. We will also use 10% of the total bilingual allotment fund for professional development. In our support plans, we have 3 targeted areas. One is our ESL professional development. This provides our teachers with additional support. On Fridays, when our students are dismissed early, we use our Fridays for district PD, and several of those Fridays have been targeting our ESL strategies in our teacher professional development. Also, we partner with Region 12 for additional training. We also have developed targeted documents such as instructional playlist strategies for our teachers. We also have included a 2022-2023 study session which incorporates the 240 tutoring learning program. We have refined our TELPIS Tuesdays from the program that we implemented last year. This year we have added several more sessions to include 11 sessions November 2022, which was our start date, that goes through March 2023. It is data-driven with our Summit K-12 Learning Program. Our Summit K-12 Learning Program not only assesses the proficiencies of our students, but it also provides us with an opportunity to monitor their progress through the use of interactive videos, aligned TEKs that support the curriculum and instruction for our ESL students. We also incorporated a teacher workbook that will give our teachers a better understanding of what we are expecting from them and for all of them to be on a consistent page when it comes to providing instruction for our ESL students. Lastly, we have our emergent bilingual ESL intervention classrooms. We have an interventionist that goes to each campus every day that provides an additional 6 hours a week to each of our campus, which targets our ESL students in the linguistic sustainable practices. Also, our interventionist provides a cultural relevant pedagogical practice for our students who are ESL students. They also use the Summit K-12 resource that will help assess them, and we monitor them on a weekly basis, and they are probably at about 8,000 hours now of Summit K-12 monitoring and processes in that particular program. This concludes our ESL waiver application report. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Good evening, Board President Johnson, members of the board. Communication and branding are the backbones and pillars of any school district. Being able to tell our own story and speak about the great things that are happening for students, staff, and the community are important to the Maryland Independent School District. Vision 2025, 7.1, we're looking at active coverage and media mentions in the number of district news appearances. So after we were successful when it comes to increasing our scores academically, there was a 50% increase of having an average mentions of 25 to 40 mentions per week. If you notice, the social media outreach on just positive communication as it relates to our recognitions at the national level and state level of 163,000, and of course a non-social media reach, which is television views of 1.6 million. In the words of Martin Payne, this face belongs on the tizoob. And so we've been on television a lot. Now, as I mentioned before about accountability rating and of course passing the bond, and it's to the greater public. Notice on the far right, that's 8.7 million. Thank you to the Washington Post. So I'm gonna tell a little story about that. We achieved so much greatness here at Marlin ISD. The fact that the Washington Post called Marlin, of course, throwing, how do I say professionally, throwing shade? Give me how I say throwing shade professionally. I don't know, throwing shade on the outcomes that took place. And please get this for the Democrat too, Ms. Richardson. Okay. We're gonna get the newspaper on there right good about today. Say it again. Disparage. We got up to 8.7 in our social media mentions because the newspaper, they got seen by a lot of people. But the feedback that I received was just the fact that they're mentioning Marlin ISD as the main story for the state of Texas and for the country when it comes to student accountability. It shows what took place and what we did. To have a student's progress measure of an A, forget what they're saying. Our students grew and rated an A from where they started in 1 year to the next year. That speaks to the volumes of our faculty, staff, and the commitment of our students. And I would say sometimes just the news, they've been our friend, I think, throughout over the past 2 or 3 years. Even with my advocacy for students on Friday nights, the news was extremely friendly. And then when I think about the actual outcome from that, I can't speak on Facebook, but from Twitter, 100% positive. So Marlin ISD is being recognized for what we're doing for our children, not only academically, but with the passing of the bond and of course the advocacy for our students. So we are on target with our media mentions. And I'll safe to say we've probably only had half a negative story in the past 3 years. coming up on the 1-year anniversary of dance floors and scuff marks. So we're actually doing very well. So here are discussions of immediate needs. We do not have an accurate historical database of media mentions, but we're really going to try to get a baseline of what were they talking about Marlin ISD and how much mentions were actually taken. And then now it's time to get some true stakeholder feedback surveys. We do them here or there, but we really want to continue to get the opinions of our actual community, but still important to understand what Region 12, Waco, and the state thinks about the Marlin Independent School District. So upcoming deliverables, we're gonna do a thought exchange with Cabinet and the district leadership team about how to engage the community in different ways. And then check-ins with our media personnel and key organizations, making sure that they're still hearing about what's happening great for children. We have to tell our story. And this school district is not about any adult, it's about the children that we serve from pre-K through the 12th grade. Are there any questions about 8.6 million? That's a lot of people. That's a lot. Throwing shade, Kathy Career. What's the word again? Disparage. I'm a math teacher. So state recognition for outstanding education communication submission awards for Texas school PR categories. Last year, Marlin ISD led Region 12. I say it again, last year, Marlin ISD led Region 12. We beat Killeen, Midway, and Waco ISD with 19 state awards for outstanding education communication. So, excuse me, we won 20 last year. No, we applied for 20 and we won 19. I know I was correct. And so right now we have applied for 25 awards to see if we can go on to the national level. These are awards that recognize our school calendar, our website, our social media, our Twitter, our Facebook. It's all about educating the mass public about what's taking place within our four walls here in the Marlin Independent School District. So we now want to look at various new categories, as I mentioned, calendar and website, but what are other ways now we can bring in? We have our podcast now. And we really want to make sure that, I keep repeating myself, we are speaking truth and positivity over our children. And then go back to the last one, we really want to get more stakeholder feedback on what submissions we can definitely enter to our state organization for school PR. So the awards we recognized in March, and then we'll begin planning for 2024 in April 2023. I believe in planning a year out, so we make sure that we're aligning budget and just strategic plan initiatives for the next year when it comes to communication. Are there any questions? 8.6 million. 8.6, they know about Marlin, Texas. And we are. So, intruder detection audit report findings for Marlin Elementary School. Our number one priority is to keep our students and faculty safe while they are here in school. And in the wake of the tragedy in Uvalde, TEA and the state, they are starting to up the level of checks on actual school buildings. So tonight I'm going to report to you our audit findings from Marlin Elementary School. So phase one was just intruder detection audit whenever they entered the building. And by the way, myself and Chief Simmons knew that they were going to come. They did not tell us a day. So when they came on campus, they were stopped immediately. And so there are no corrective action required for exterior door audit. In the words of Joe Clark, lock the door, chain the door, and we had no corrective action required. All outside doors were locked and secured. We even pulled hard at the elementary school, so phenomenal job to Mrs. Jefferson and her team as well. Phase three, so once you're inside the building, classroom door audit, there is corrective action required. 2 classrooms were left unlocked. So despite the other ones being locked and closed, there were 2 rooms that had subs in them in which, after doing the walk, we were able to walk and enter into the classroom. And we do have a district expectation about you keep doors closed and locked at all times. So the corrective action includes, and I submitted the elementary school just kind of quick summary plan on how they're going to ensure that. We've worked with Vince to get additional keys for the subs to lock the door and close the doors even for subs. Weekly exterior door sweeps audit, Chief Simmons is doing a phenomenal job in doing his weekly checks. So now he goes around weekly along with Officer Bradley, once again for all 3 campuses, just to make sure that this is not just a one-time exercise. We always keep doors locked, and we do have the paperwork on file. Are there any questions? We have had the high school check, and I will report on that in January, but very similar results. So no corrective action found except for the inside. So the actual classroom door or outside door? So in working with the fire drills, we do all of our evacuation, fire drill, shelter in place at a minimum of once per month. So depending upon the drill, typically the doors are unlocked by campus administration only, so not even classroom teachers. And of course, our officers and the central office team as well. Moving on to the consent agenda, the financial report for November 2022. That's on me. I've highlighted at the top right our actual revenue. As up to November, we have received 51% of our revenue, with the majority being our state revenue. If you notice, we have only received 10% of local, which are our tax dollars, and only 6% of federal revenue. But we've been extremely conservative. Total expenditures, far right to the bottom, we have only expended 35.45% of our revenue. It's one thing to be conservative, but I want to make sure that we're still getting our children and staff what they need to be successful. Then I did actual year-to-date expenses. If you notice, instruction and facilities are our top 2 spenders. We have spent $1.6 million to date on instruction. I wouldn't have it any other way. And then facilities, I love Vince, I love Cody, I love Robert, I love Amos, but $795,000 is a lot to spend on facilities. So I'm thankful for this community that we were able to pass a bond, and now some of these funds can be earmarked back over more so into instruction. Our net change in fund balance year to date is $1.7 million. I don't have any concerns because, yes, we will have lean months. However, I do believe that we are not spending enough money. And it's crazy to say that in this day and age. So we're working now with principals to make sure that all faculty and staff and students have what they need and a little bit of what they want. If they want additional Chromebooks or smart panels or to go on that learning field trip, hate to say it, clearly we have the funds to do it, and let's provide children with the various experiences. And just here is a 4-month look back from July to November, spread out year to date. Going on to our food service fund, our total revenue for the month of November was $91,000, $3,000 in actual receipts, and federal revenue of $88,000. But year to date, we're only at 36%. So something is going on slow because I mentioned to you before, we're not receiving our revenue fast enough. The district, we do have the funds to carry it, but the federal government still owes us around $650,000 and the state $15,000. So we are currently exceeding expenses over revenue, but we are to the negative $10,812 for the month, $11,000 for the year. But on the general fund, we have $1.7 million that we are to the good. So $11,000 will take care of the hot dogs, pinto beans, and watermelon. Investment report, this shows our actual fund balance of around $5.2 to $5.3 million. If you combine the $1.6 to $3.6 million, Dr. Parker and myself in Region 12, we're going to move some funds over to a higher earning interest account. We moved it one time last year, then it changed, so now we need to move it again. The idea will be to take our bond funds, have them in a separate account, still over at Cadence Bank, earning around, what, 3.5% interest? The text, was that right? So 3.5% interest into a different account. $32 million will yield us around $90,000 a year in interest, at least for the first few years. Are there any questions? Next, we will have vendor selection, design build services for Legion Field with Mr. Jesse Bustamante.
Good evening, Board President Johnson, members of the board, Dr. Henson. Marlin ISD has improved and made significant strides in academics, athletics, and in fine arts. It is now time to make significant strides in improving our facilities. An RFQ was released on November 22nd, 2022, seeking qualified statements from design build firms, teams, and energy services interested in providing professional design and construction services for the bond projects at Legion Field. To speak a little bit about these pictures, as you can see, our press box has been on the news. Dr. Henson has mentioned several times about the stairway. He calls it the stairway to heaven. But we are in desperate need of improving the track, the press box, and several other areas at Legion Field. The proposed scope of work for this project will include an 8-lane running track, synthetic turf, renovating and upgrading our existing bleachers, adding seat backs with cup holders, a new video scoreboard, upgrading our speaker system, renovating, possibly upgrading our press box, possible elevator, perimeter fencing to secure the field, new gates, and then general athletic facility renovations and upgrades to our concession stand, the restrooms, and the old field house. Please keep in mind that this is just a draft scope of work. Once we start meeting with our facility committee, we will finalize the scope of work for this project. Timeline for this project, we posted the RFQ November 22nd. December 8th was the deadline for vendors to submit their qualification statements. December 9th, the committee met to score the submissions. And then on December 12th, today, I'm bringing you the selected vendor for approval to go ahead and move forward and negotiate a contract. Some steps moving forward for this project. In the month of January, the district will first attempt to negotiate a contract with the selected vendor. We will also begin our facility committee meetings to start finalizing the scope of work for Legion Field. The month of February, we'll collaborate with the selected firm to create a customized and streamlined solution to address the needs at Legion Field. Spring of 2023, the Marlin ISD will approve the final construction contract with the Board of Managers, and we will also initiate the implementation of the agreed-upon scope of work. Fall of 2023, we'll determine and finalize the timeline and completion of all projects, and then ongoing communication with the Board of Managers for any updates or any changes that may come up. The selected vendor for this project is Schneider Electric. We have members of the Schneider team here today, so I would like them to come up at this time to speak a little bit more about their company and what they can do for Marlin ISD.
Hi, everyone, Board of Managers, Dr. Henson. My name is Miranda Duma. The two ladies you have in front of you are Rebecca Scholes and Lily Hale. The fourth member of our team here is Brett Holting. We are very happy to be here and to have been selected and hopefully approved this evening to do this work. What you guys just had placed in front of you, one of them is a marketing journal, which I'll go through in just a second. You have a box of Christmas cookies, because it's Christmas time, as well as a card in your portfolio journal. In the back of your portfolio journal, you will also see a reference sheet, which I'll go over in just a second. This folder has some marketing plans that we have talked with the administration about, your administration about. It goes through who we are and what we do, some of the team members that will work on the marketing side as well as the development and construction side. And then we have some hopefully very exciting pieces of marketing that we wanted to put before you, some pieces that would be shown before construction, some things we can do on the website, some signage around town, some signage that can go up during construction so we can show the community how you guys are being fiscally responsible, how you're investing the approved bond dollars. And at the end, you can see some things that we are hopeful and excited to implement on the back end. One of Dr. Henson's favorites is the bulldog at the stadium, a bronze bulldog to be specific, which you can see in there. We have some signage on the back of the bleachers and a new scoreboard, just a mock-up of it. But we just wanted to get you guys some photos and show you some pieces that we're really excited about. The last thing that you'll see in this portfolio is a reference from Robinson ISD. We recently did a project with them that was district-wide, comprehensive, and what it shows you is their focus was saving money, saving and reducing consumption of energy, operation and maintenance costs, and reinvesting it into the learning environment. So what you'll see on this paper is an overview of that project that we did with the Robinson ISD administration and board, as well as a scope matrix on the back. So wanted to provide you some of those pieces of information, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Can you speak about any potential stadium projects that you all might have here in the Region 12 Waco area?
Yeah, so we have done projects throughout the entire nation as well as throughout the state of Texas. Some that we are currently working on developing some in Region 12. I'm not allowed to say those names because we're working on negotiating contracts, but there are some that we are working on in Region 12. Outside of Region 12, we've done stadium projects at White House ISD, which is south of Tyler. We did lighting upgrades, and it looks really phenomenal. We did a turf football field at Scurry Rosser, which is in Region 10, and we've done many more design build projects as well as stadium projects, which the district administration has all within the RFQ.
Can you maybe speak to the board and to the community about a projected timeline of just what are the immediate next steps?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. So as we're all very excited for Christmas break, we're going to give the administration some time to breathe. They've been working hard to get the bond passed and now get through the RFQ selection. The next step of what we will do will start the first week of January when everyone's back. We're first going to have a team on site first this Wednesday, but then again in January. We're going to do 2 different site walks. We're going to work with the district administration to have marketing and vision planning meetings in January. And then in February, we're going to start delivering a lot of the cost, the scope, the opportunities as Mr. Bustamante defined in the screen before this. We'll have that in February and in March. And then hopefully we're going to present in the March spring time frame some opportunities for final approval so that y'all will be able to have hopefully some new things to show in the upcoming football season. Thank you.
Moving forward, maintenance and transportation are the backbone of our district operations. This is why we must improve their workspace facility. A request for qualifications was posted November 22nd, seeking statements of qualifications from design build firms, teams, energy services for the construction services for the new maintenance and transportation operation facility. Once again, these pictures are quite concerning. As you can see, the bottom left picture, to me, it looks like a haunted warehouse. The steps that are in the middle are very similar to the steps that are in the press box. I don't think anyone has used those steps. The oil has been there since 1970. And just the aerial view is, we're limited with space. The buses are parked outside, random cars near the buses. So we're in desperate need of improving our facility for our maintenance and transportation team. The scope of work for this project is a pre-engineered building, 2,500 to 3,000 square feet, 3 office spaces, 1 conference room, a storage area, adequate security for our supplies, covered parking for our buses and our white fleet, and then appropriate heating and cooling, and then revamping our parking lot. Once again, this is a draft of the scope of work. Once we start speaking with the selected firm, we will finalize that scope of work, also taking input from our maintenance team, our transportation team. We'll finalize the scope of work. The timeline is exactly the same for the previous RFQ that I presented. Here are the dates, November 22nd, December 8th, December 9th, and then we are here on December 12th asking for your approval to move forward and negotiate a contract with the selected vendor. The timeline is the same from our previous RFQ. To save time, I will not go into detail with this timeline, but it is the exact same timeline that we will be using for Legion Field. Ongoing communication will be presented here at the board meetings for any changes or any updates that may come up. The selected team for this project was Snyder Electric. If Snyder would have, do you guys have anything to add to the presentation? Any questions, anything you'd like to share? Mr. Johnson, members of the board, is there any more questions for Snyder Electric? Any questions for me? The best part is going to be changed to a different location, correct? Yes, ma'am. Green Street is a new location. The old high school, yes.
Board President Johnson, no, sir. That'll be handled probably working with Adam. Now, of course, the management of it, work with them, but the actual design of the scoreboard will be handled internally. Adam, myself, the committee will help design. Yes, sir.
We'll have some updates for the scoreboard sometime in January. Mr. Lejeune will be happy to present on that once we come to in January.
Yes, sir, and that's why we're looking forward to get back to our committee to allow them to give their input. One thing important to note with this process, now that it's passed, their work is not done. And we're gonna reconvene Mr. Bustamante when? It's the first kind of presumed meeting that we're gonna reconvene the committee?
January the 10th.
So January the 10th, we're gonna get back together, the original committee, and say, okay, guys, we did it. Now it's time to actually begin the fun part of the design, the layout, and then, of course, working with Schneider to make sure that everything fits within the plan on the construction side as well.
Thank you.
Good evening, Board President Johnson, members of the board. Tonight, we're going to discuss the vendor selection for the underwriting syndicate, so the underwriter for the bond funds. Our RFQ was posted on our website requesting underwriters to apply. We had 20 applications. An underwriter, they helped process the sale of the funds, of the bond funds. So December 8th, they were all submitted. December 9th, as well as today, Dr. Parker, myself, and our financial advisor from Stiefel, we met to score the submitted applications, and tonight I'm bringing to you all a name for the board's approval. Tonight I'm bringing to you UMB to be our senior underwriter. They are a Texas-based firm. Our financial advisor does have experience working with members of this firm before, and he feels highly comfortable with our selection of using them as our underwriter as well as our co-underwriter, RGC, out of Houston, Texas. Are there any questions? Knowing the importance of beginning the process of construction within the community, there might be times in which we want to get started before bond funds might come in February. So tonight I'm going to ask for the board's permission to reimburse ourselves in our general fund with bond proceeds. In the months of December, January, and February, there might be expenses as it relates to Legion Field, safety and security upgrades at Marlin Elementary, Marlin Middle School, and anything as it relates to Marlin High School. We're not going to exceed $3 million. We won't get anywhere near $3 million, but for any expense that happens as it relates to the bond in the months of December, January, February, we're asking your permission just to re-journal and reimburse ourselves because the money has not come in. Our plan is to what they call sell our bonds in January to receive funds in February. Are there any questions? And that is a resolution that's to be signed and approved by the board. This next resolution allows myself and/or Dr. Parker to work with our financial advisor on the sale of the bonds. Typically, all functions of a school district are a function of the board. But as the market changes from day to day, who knows when it's going to be the appropriate time to actually sell the bond. The resolution will allow for me to work in real time. If at 4:30 on January the 13th, the market has interest rates at a very low rate, we can execute the bond funds, opposed to coming back to the board and who knows what's going to happen on that following Monday or Tuesday. So this is a resolution drafted by our attorneys from Walsh Gallegos that state myself and or Dr. Parker have the authority to work directly with our underwriter, our bond counsel, as well as of our financial advisor to execute the sale of the bonds immediately, and we will not have to wait to come back to the board for you all's approval and vote. Are there any questions? Policy Update 119. Coming up on a legislative year, there has been many changes over the past 2 to 3 years as it relates to federal and state laws, decisions by our commissioner, decisions by the Attorney General. So TASB, our School Board Association, has updated all the policies, and you see all of them here from AIB to GKG, legal. It is a lot of them. It is a 400-page document, and I have included the 10-page summary there for you. But this just allows permission for our policies to be updated and be in line with the state policies. These are all legal policies, not local policies. If any local policy needs to be changed, it'll come before you with a red line format and address the specific legal policy that was changed based off this update number 119. It's a lot, and it varies from A to Z on this one. Our last policy update, I want to say, was maybe a year and a half ago. Calling for a May election. With the recent success that our students have shown, we are going to regain our local control and go back to an elected board of trustees. In May of 2023, we're cycled to run an election for District 1 and for 2 at-large positions. So here is our current transition plan: to add 2 elected members in January of 24, 2 in January of 25, and 3 of January of 26. And that'll encompass the 7 elected Board of Trustee positions. The 3 of you all as the Board of Managers will remain on the board at a minimum until at least January of 2026. This election is for single-member District 1, which to my knowledge is South Marlin. It'll be held in 23, 26, and in 3-year increments after that. And then for our 2 at-large positions, which can be anywhere school district-wide, 23, 26, and in 3-year intervals thereafter. So we have 3 positions to place on the ballot if you all call for an election in May of 2023. May of 2023. Are there any questions? And this does conclude the superintendent's report.